Russell Westbrook dismissed criticism from Stephen A. Smith, who had said that Russ's statistical accomplishments don't mean anything and he needs to win a championship. I'm Robin Lundberg here with Ben Pickman and Ashley Nicole Moss. And Ben, Russell Westbrook said he is a champion for making it where he is, and he won't allow others to shape his narrative anymore. And that's sort of the player relationship with the media at times, which is now a talking point. To me, you need a little nuance in this conversation, because as a player, I could critique Russell Westbrook, the lack of a jump shot, some of the other things that don't put him on the level of the very best guys. Nevertheless, he's also going to be a Hall of Famer, so you can understand why, he doesn't feel like he should be attacked all the time.
Right. This goes back to kind of how a lot of fans and media portray Russell Westbrook, and how oftentimes we blend, and we, the media, sports media, are largely at fault here as well, blend the player and the person, right, in conversations and in debates about them, right? Far too often we don't separate the athlete from, say, their off-court accomplishments, right? Or we criticize the on-court and have it kind of make these broad strokes conclusions about the athlete and the person more broadly, right? It's certainly fair game to criticize Russell Westbrook, say, for, averaging just over 21 points per game, which is his lowest total since his second year in the league, or, shooting below average in terms of a field goal percentage. But, where sometimes people cross the line, and it's a really thin line to walk, is, when the on-court struggles then relate and translate to the off-court struggles. And so this is kind of a classic example, a more recent example of that debate. And as you said, Robin, the need for nuance in kind of discussing athletes like Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, look, we're all involved with it, but I guess it's not even like a personal critique, but it's when the critique of the play almost feels personal. And Ashley, when you're talking about Russell Westbrook here and what Stephen A. said about championships, he was just complaining about the Nets getting LaMarcus Aldridge. I think the reason you see super teams in part is because we have this. It's either the championship or there's nothing else that matters. So what do you expect guys to do but try to put themselves in a position to win a championship?
Exactly. You hit it right on the head. And it's the conversation that people use, or it's the reasoning people use, rather, to say that LeBron is not as good as Michael Jordan, right? Because of the lack of rings. And then also it's unfair criticism of Westbrook because, yes, Kevin Durant has rings, and those rings were obtained through means that people don't necessarily agree with. But if you look at Paul George, other former superstars of Westbrook, they don't have rings either. So to kind of use this narrative that maybe the problem is Westbrook, you could have that conversation if every single superstar that he has played with went on to win championships and multiple championships, but only Kevin Durant has rings. So it's a really unfair critique of Westbrook, but also you can't, play smart and stupid at the same time, if you will. You can't expect guys to stay in small markets. You can't expect them to practice loyalty, but then bash them for not having the rings. And then you also, on the other hand, you can't bash guys for building these monsters, these super teams, if you will, to go ahead and get those rings and then try to discredit them as it quote unquote cheating, or it, tarnishing the game of basketball, or it being bad for the NBA. It's got to be one or the other, because in order to get the rings, you have to be surrounded by a lot of good players. And then if you're not surrounded by a lot of good players, but you're staying loyal to your franchise, or you're doing everything correctly, then you're probably not going to get the same accolades. So everyone's got to decide what side of the argument they are on and stay there.
And to be, again, nuanced, and to follow up what I said at the beginning, Russell Westbrook has played with some great players, right? I mean, he played with Kevin Durant and James Harden and Serge Ibaka with OKC. He just got a chance to play with James Harden, who also doesn't have a ring, is a superior player to Westbrook in my mind, and may get one this season. But there is stuff that is in between, and these conversations can be more complex than simply you have a ring and you're a winner, or you don't have a ring and you're a failure.